appreciate your coming over. Wow. Let's try this again. Or possibly not.
Hello. Everybody, so my name is Hello. Yeah, hello. My name is Alex Bonnet. So today we're going to discussion and most especially about why. So what the business we're going to talk about how to deploy. So before joining Microsoft, I was working at and today always so over the past few years I've been for this question organization. That's why today I'm going to share with you some when you think about our Microsoft and HoloLens 2016, it's been pretty exciting when customers and developers have been technology and been amazed and partnering some of the biggest companies in the world. We've identified key business areas for which can really bring and one of these mixed reality. So I guess we all step-by-step instructions in our lives, videos, assembling furniture, better on, even cooking meal. Every day, of people are step-by-step instructions, mixed chemical compounds. And these instructions always deliver on paper, eventually on your best, and they come with some challenges. They actually compete with you at this point. They compete with the operator reaching first of these based by instructions. They force you to fix down and tools them. You always continue to switch your focus between what you do and what you need to know to do it. And you need to put your foot down to ask them and grow them. So that is a necessary sometimes in addition to not being available. Second, the instructions, again, always delivered on paper on tablets, are very rigid, overwhelming. You always need to handle the diagrams that don't refer directly to the reality of the task. And finally, they're always out of context. There is no spatial registration between the information you see on the paper and the paper, and that requires a different method to understand what you do. So what if there was a way to overcome all of these challenges? Well, that's precisely what we try to achieve mixed reality step-by-step. And with mixed reality step-by-step, you can just see the information as well as around you. And then finally, you can work you don't switch the features. You can still focus on the tasks you're trying to accomplish while looking at the hologram information. And you, by this way, you minimize the downtime because you can focus down. These instructions are flexible and to understand and delivered as holograms. They are matching exactly the way the brain should understand the reality. And they can still be completed by text if you want. And finally, meaning that the information is available where you need it to be and in the right format for you to consume. So you don't need to spend that additional brain power. And we really feel that instructions are one of the most amazing applications of the technology for HoloLens. So let's look at why the business benefit you can expect from talking with we identified four main different business benefits that all complement each other and that all of them. So let me try to describe all of them. The first type of business benefit that we see is about time. So with HoloLens, we see with customers that operators are actually perform tasks faster. So again, they don't need to focus between information and the task itself because it's easy to understand. They can take decisions faster, and because they provide context, they don't need to look for the area of the world. So much faster. And it's as well really easy and it's as well faster to get up to speed because you can train that memory on the job to let novices acquire these skills quickly. And in addition, because the novices are supported by the hologram, you don't need to book the time of your experience that previously had to mentor the novices. So you free up some time from and finally, identify problems earlier. With holograms and you can see what the product is supposed to look like at the end of the process. So you can very quickly understand if things are going to be later on. The second type of benefit that we see with mixed reality is about quality. It doesn't make sense to build things faster if quality is lower. And with mixed reality and holograms, you can not only show what to do, but you can show what not to do to operators. Can easily capture your result as you work. You don't need to use all that paperwork. You don't need to have a lot of different tools to report your results. So you can directly, with X-rays in HoloLens, capture what you've done and enter it in the system, minimizing the risk of reporting mistakes. And again, in addition to that, you can bring more value to the reports, to the quality reports. For example, in the case of quality report on a damage assessment for a car, let's say, you can imagine that you don't only report the specifics of the damage itself, but you could record and coordinate of the damage points. And that at the end is going to speed up your process because you can be able to find back where the damage are and overall your quality process. And finally, about quality, we can lower the risk of damages by reducing the dependencies on manufacturing tools. It's very common for manufacturing processes to rely on additional tooling that you need to manufacture to support operators accomplish their job. So let me give you an example. In aerospace, companies are very commonly using what they call drilling templates. So these are huge metallic templates with holes that they use to, for example, put on the wings of the aircraft, and they follow the template to drill inside before they join the wing and the fuselage. Using this template can cause the magic because if you mount the template the wrong way, you're gonna screw up your drilling, and you could actually damage the wing itself by installing the template on the aircraft. So another opportunity for mixed reality is to remove all of these templates. So not even manufacture them, and the lower the risk of damage because they're not in your space. The third type of business benefits are linked to process optimization. Holograms are way cheaper, way more flexible, and way more powerful than replicas. And I'll show you an example later on. Because your quality is going to go up, you're going to be able to sell raw materials, and eventually on travels. You won't need your expert to fly all around the world to actually support the business. And just to say that a picture is worth with other words, we could say that a hologram is worth with other pictures. And we've seen pages of documentation being reduced to holograms of a couple of seconds. The last type of business that we foresee with Society and HoloLens is about engagement. When we look at operators and customers using Society solutions, we see that the autonomy of the operator increases. And workplace is really cool as well because you can capture that knowledge and make it available to the employees for the benefit of the And finally, using HoloLens, you can improve your processes for faster time and better quality, but you can improve the ergonomics as well. I remember an example from Airbus where the operators had to get on their knees to actually measure the floor before installing the airline seats. And with using HoloLens, they could actually just measure based on the sensor on the device, measure the floor, keep the seats directly on the aircraft. So they didn't have to and like get on their knees and risk injuries during the process. And overall, considered will always be more committed actually display on the job a step-by-step holographic instruction right where the work happens, so employee can actually learn by doing. And it's really easy to build your contents on top of the HoloLens app that we built. We developed a PC app that's based on drag and drop, so you can just drag and drop your text, videos, images, and 3D models, and start building guides as if you were a missionary expert. If you don't have any 3D models, any holograms, that's not a problem because we packed in the app some basic holographic shapes like arrows, hands, or numbers that you can start using right out of the box to build very valuable content. And at the end of the day, you can use the data generated by the operator's run-throughs to look at your process efficiency and spot right away potential improvement for your company. So it's really, really easy. I'm done for this presentation. I hope you guys are gonna be able to in the coming days. If you have a HoloLens, you can just download the app and get set up, and it's gonna work right away. It's available in HoloLens 1 and HoloLens 2. I'll be happy to understand what you guys could potentially do with guides. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you. Yep. Yeah. So that's an interesting question. So we are thinking about this kind of potentialities and opportunities. And what you're gonna see very soon is some kind of capability in the app to recognize objects, shapes, like align content objects. And that's not available today, but that will be available in the future. Yep. Yeah. So there's I can actually send you some documentation about that. We've been monitoring companies that have been using HoloLens to do training, and depending on the use case, people are gonna have different type of benefits and improvements. I can top of my mind, I can eventually quote Global Foundries. That's the company building chips, and they found that it could actually 2 times faster to train somebody using holograms than using conventional techniques. Another company named Lufthansa Cargo. So these guys are managing the way you load aircraft. They found that the success rate of people to the exam was improved. So the failing rate increased to 7% instead of being 36%. So 36% failing rate with HoloLens. And there's a few other examples like this in the industry. There's a lot of companies looking and like talking about the benefits they get out of the technology. I could refer some. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that actually don't work. That's why I think it's really important to focus on the right use case. For example, if you try to train somebody about the task happening in a very confined environment, you're not going to ask someone to actually wear a HoloLens, which is still a headset that you have to wear on your head. So you're not going to ask somebody to actually wear an additional equipment in an environment that's already very confined for that person. So that's why I think it's really important to understand the technology, the boundaries of the technology and your use case before making the change. And there's plenty of other example. I can give you another example. The HoloLens sensors, for example, they have sensitivities to detect very reflective surfaces. So if you try to use HoloLens in an environment where there's a lot of mirrors, you won't be able, the device won't be able to detect itself in that space. Then you won't be able to display very stable holograms. So again, it's all about understanding the environment and understanding what the technology can do before you. Thank you, guys.
Hello? Works. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Before I start, I would like to thank Colin and Samantha for organizing this event and for having me here. This is my first time in Microsoft building, and I'm very impressed by the environment and by nice artwork here. So very happy to be here. And so my name is Chang Lu, and I'm a postdoc research fellow at Blockchain EMBC. I don't have a technical background. So even though I'm talking about blockchain today, talking about healthcare today, my PhD was actually in business. So my PhD was in strategic management and organization from University of Alberta. So I was trained in organization theory and look at how organizations are influenced by institutional environment and how they can respond to institutional pressures. So in my postdoc fellowship at UBC, Blockchain UBC, what I do is that I study how we can adopt a blockchain. So the barriers, institutional organizational barriers to blockchain technology adoption. And by studying that, I'm hoping to have some contributions to organization theory. But in the meantime, I'm also hoping to bring some insights to practitioners in terms of how they can actually adopt blockchain technology. So today, my talk is going to be from an organizational business perspective, not from a technical perspective. And I know something about the technical aspect of blockchain, but definitely I'm not a technical expert. And I think for the technical aspects of blockchain, probably you know much better than me. And yeah, so I just want to kind of put that in front of my presentation today. Okay, so blockchain technology. So how many of you haven't heard of blockchain? Oh, only one person. Okay, so most of the people have heard of blockchain technology. Yeah, blockchain is a very kind of buzzword in the past few years. It gained popularity with the rise of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So what is blockchain? Basically, blockchain is a distributed immutable ledger. So what happens on a blockchain is that you will have multiple nodes on a chain. And every time when each of the node has new data input into the blockchain, everyone on the chain will get a copy. So basically, there will be great data synchronization. So so in the end, if you are a participant on a blockchain, you will have a copy of all the data records in everyone's data on that blockchain. So that's why we call it a distributed ledger. And also something about blockchain technology is that once you have the record there, so once you have data saved on a blockchain, it's very difficult to change it, because if you want to make changes, then all the participants on the blockchain have to agree with the changes. And it's very difficult mathematically. Basically, it's mathematically impossible. So that's why we believe that blockchain technology is kind of an immutable ledger. Next slide. So in the past decade, blockchain technology has been diffusing into many different industries, and financial service is definitely one of the top one of the industry that you can think about, because we have cryptocurrency and we have Bitcoin. But there are also other industries that are looking at blockchain, and healthcare is one of them. So there are a lot of problems in healthcare, and a lot of these problems are related to the inefficient data management in healthcare. For example, in healthcare, the cost is very high, and the cost is probably just is only increasing. And the reason why we have so high cost in healthcare is because we have to hire a lot of administration staff to manage healthcare data. We have to have secretaries, we have to have healthcare physician assistants to do the charting for patients, and we have to transfer the patient's health record from one physician to another. So this kind of administration task actually adds a lot of cost to healthcare. And then because physicians have to, do a lot of this administration task, and nurses have to do a lot of administration related to data management, then they don't have a lot of time actually dealing with patients. And then adds to the waiting time for patients. And you can just go show all the bullet points. And then there is silos among care providers. For example, right now, I think in Canada, the provinces actually don't share health records with each other. So for example, if you move from British Columbia to Alberta, then you have to create a new record in Alberta, and your physician in Alberta will not have any access to your record in BC. And if you want your physician in Alberta to have access to your record in BC, then you have to go through a very lengthy process. You have to authorize your current physician and then contact your previous physician. So there are a lot of silos among care providers. And then there are counterfeit drugs, especially in developing countries. A lot of times, cancer drugs are fake. You just know, the drugs you are getting are treating cancer, but you don't know, where they come from. And then we have opioid crisis, and there are a lot of reasons for opioid crisis, but one of the reasons is that our pharmacy system actually lacks a very efficient way of managing record. So if a pharmacist actually steals opioid from a pharmacy and sells it in a black market, sometimes you can't really detect that. And I have a friend who works as a pharmacist, and he told me that in his pharmacy, sometimes when drugs go missing, they don't actually have a good way tracking it. And then the last problem I have here is the low patient engagement and empowerment. So right now, basically the most powerful actor in the healthcare system is physicians, and physicians have all the power to, they basically can decide what a patient is going to get and which kind of treatment the patient is going to get. And patients have very little role in the healthcare system than being just treated. And this has caused a lot of problems. Patients want to have more voice in the healthcare system, but currently we don't have a way to do that. So a lot of people think that, if we introduce blockchain into healthcare, probably we can solve some of the problems I just talked about. And there are right now dozens of user cases of blockchain in healthcare. And I will just give you a few examples. And so, for example, in the clinical trial process, there are all kinds of blockchain healthcare blockchain user cases. Last year, I think IBM and the company I work with, pharmaceutical company that I work with, Boehringer Ingelheim, had a blockchain pilot project looking at how to use blockchain in patient consent during clinical trial. So basically, what they did is that they had a blockchain kind of app where patients and clinical research organizations are connected on the blockchain. So because blockchain enables data synchronization, every time when the clinical trial protocol changes, the patient will see the changes, and then they will give the updated consent to the changes. So in this way, patients are always informed about the changes on the clinical trial protocol, and the pharmaceutical company also always has the most updated consent from the patient. So in this way, pharmaceutical companies can comply with regulations better. And then there are use cases looking at clinical trial supply chain. If you do a clinical trial, you have to get all the lab materials, and sometimes these lab materials are not very high quality, and you don't know where they come from. So there are companies looking at this area. For example, I think Pfizer and some other companies organized a consortium last year, and they are looking at they are looking to use blockchain to improve data transparency and data provenance in clinical trial materials supply chain. So what they did is that they would enroll all the suppliers of clinical trial materials into the blockchain, and everyone on the blockchain. That would include manufacturers, lab material suppliers, and so every time when a supplier sends out lab material, then everyone on the chain will have a record of that. So they will know, okay, this supplier has sent out the material, and when they receive the material, they will know, okay, this is from that supplier. And if they got a material that does not have any record in the database, then they will be suspicious of the source of this material. So in that way, everyone probably will have better confidence of the materials they are getting for the clinical trial material supply chain. And then there are also some other user cases to look at patient ownership of data. In my opinion, this is the ultimate user case of blockchain in healthcare. So what these user cases are trying to achieve is that they want to have an app where each patient can store on their phone or on their computer. And this app is blockchain based. And through this app, the patient is connected to physicians, to nurses, and to all the other healthcare providers. So every time, so when you have this app, every time when you go to see a physician and the physician give you a treatment, and then the treatment will go to your record. So go to your basically kind of like a private wallet. And over time, you will have all your medical record, all your medicine you have taken, and such. And then when you have that complete record, you can use that record for your benefits. For example, you can sell that record to pharmaceutical companies for them to do clinical trials, or you can sell that to insurance companies. If you have a very good healthcare record, maybe they will reduce your health insurance and so on and so forth. So in that way, patients will actually have control of their healthcare data, and they can also benefit from their healthcare data. Next. So there are a lot of healthcare, blockchain healthcare use cases right now. But then how can we decide which one to look at and which one to adopt? Imagine you are a startup founder, or you are a healthcare authority working for BC Health, and you want to adopt a blockchain user case. like which kind of use case you should look at. So driven by this question, I did some research in the past 10 months. I interviewed 43 industry experts and academics and corporate leaders who are very knowledgeable about blockchain in healthcare. And I also collected a lot of documents, and I did inductive qualitative coding, and I created this decision-making framework. So basically, what I found is that the adoptability of a blockchain use case in healthcare is a multiplication function of economic value of the use case, readiness for adoption, compliance with existing rules, and privacy protection. So the first factor is economic value of the use case, and this is very important because in the past few years when people talk about blockchain, they think that blockchain is a hype, and some companies would adopt blockchain not for the economic value of blockchain, but just for the sake of adopting blockchain. They feel like if they adopt blockchain, they will be seen as innovative. They are on the trend, and so on and so forth. But if you really want to adopt a blockchain, you have to think hard, whether the adoption will be beneficial to your business, whether it's going to increase your cash flow, or whether it's going to strengthen your capital base, or whether it's going to change your business model, or whether it's how it's going to improve your relationship with your customers. So it has to have economic value. And secondly, the stakeholders involved in adoption have to be ready for the adoption. And the readiness for adoption could include two elements. One is technical readiness, and the other one is organizational readiness. So for example, technical readiness, so blockchain is great, but if in an organization all the data is still paper-based, you don't even have a database, then we are not going to talk about blockchain, right? So, and this is a profound issue in a lot of healthcare organizations, because in healthcare, there are rules right now that a lot of the healthcare documents have to be, faxed and have to be on paper. So a lot of the healthcare data is not actually electronic right now. So if the data you are dealing with is not even electronicalized, then probably you cannot really adopt a blockchain. And then there will be organizational readiness for adoption. Even though the blockchain adoption may bring you a lot of economic benefits, but if your organizational culture is very conservative, if people are not really welcoming change, people are very reluctant to any kind of change, then probably adoption is going to happen very slowly in your organization. And then there will be, then the third factor is compliance with the existing rules. So healthcare is highly regulated, and the regulations are very powerful. So a lot of the blockchain user cases are trying to challenge existing regulations. For example, the user case I just talked about patient ownership of healthcare data. That's directly in odds with healthcare regulations, because by the regulations, it should be the physicians owning the data, not patients. But these user cases are proposing that patients should be the owner of the data. But then if you want to implement this kind of user case, you have to get government approval. You have to get physicians on board. But then how can you do that if the user case is against all the rules there? And then the last factor is privacy protection. So blockchain is very good at synchronizing data and helping data sharing. But sometimes people just do not want to share their data because they can benefit from their own data. If you tell people, okay, if you use blockchain, then your data is going to be shared with everyone on the blockchain, then they might be reluctant because they feel like if I share, then I will lose some benefits. So all these four factors are important, and yeah. So the overall adoptability will be the multiplication function of all these four factors, which means that if one of these factors goes to 0, the overall adoptability will be 0. So ideally, probably you want a user case that has relatively high score on all of the factors instead of having one factor very high, but the other factor very low, because in that case, the overall adoptability will be low. Next one. So this is the user case that I actually think will probably work, and that has pretty high adoptability because it's rated pretty high in all the 4 factors I just talked about. So it's called Melody. So this is a consortium in Europe, which has all the big pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, like Roche, Boehringer Ingelheim, and Janssen as the participants, and also they have universities as participants as well, and some blockchain startups. So basically what they do is that they are going to create a blockchain among all these participants, and all these participants can share their clinical research data with each other. So they will put their clinical research data on the blockchain, and then they will use AI to mine the data on the blockchain, and then the AI will have the results and send the results back to each of the participants. So in that way, the privacy of each of these companies is protected because the AI will only send back the results, will not send back the raw data from each of the companies. But in the meantime, every participant can benefit from others' data because the AI would get insights from others' data and send back to each participant in the chain. And also, this project has great economic value for the participant in this consortium because all of them are pharmaceutical companies. Most of them are pharmaceutical companies, and for them, the most important thing of their business is to find a new drug. All right. So this user case directly taps into the core business area of these companies, so it has great economic value. And I think that's about it. So I will end my presentation there, and here's my contact information. If you have any questions or if you want to continue this discussion with me, please feel free to send me an email or add me on LinkedIn. Okay, thank you. Uh-huh. Yeah. 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 So if I understand you correctly, so you are saying that right now a lot of the healthcare data system actually are not interoperable. So then you can't really build a blockchain solutions on this non-interoperable interoperable databases. Is that what you meant? Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And probably, and I think you put a very good point there. And I think maybe I could add interoperability into the decision framework that I just showed there. Interoperability of the database could be one of the determining factors of the adoptability of the user case, right? And about interoperability, I think right now there are some research being done about how to actually build blockchain solutions on non-interoperable databases. And one of the researchers associated with blockchain EMBC, his name is called Chen Feng. He's a he's an assistant professor in computer science at University of British Columbia, Okanagan campus. Right now, he's doing some theoretical work on interoperability of blockchain. Yeah. Yeah, so I can't really answer the technical aspects of that question, but yeah, I think what you just said makes a lot of sense, and interoperability between the database could be one of the determining factors of the adoptability of the user case, for sure. Chen Feng, yeah, Chen. Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Hmm. Great, thank you. So by the way, Train is the master student that I'm working with right now, and yeah, I'm supervising her on an industry report. So very good point. Yeah. So as far as I know, when you enter a blockchain, then you will have to agree with the protocol, blockchain protocol that is already in place. And in that protocol, and they have, like all the participants already have a formula to determine the contributions of each participant. So when you enter the blockchain as a new member, then either you challenge that protocol or you follow it. If you challenge it, then like you have like all the members on the blockchain will have to vote on a new protocol that you propose. Yeah, it's a consensus making mechanism. So it's a consensus made by all the participants in a particular. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For me too. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not aware of any kind of tools available right now, and I think academics probably are working on it, and probably I can take that question back to my research center and study it. So thank you for your contribution. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I think when blockchain just came up and people were very enthusiastic about it, and people really like the idea that anything that you put on blockchain cannot be erased. But then over time, people recognize that actually there is a problem. If you can erase your data, that could create problems too. And right now, I don't think the technical community of blockchain research have a solution for that. They are looking at that issue, like how to actually erase data from blockchain, but I don't think there's a solution yet. And you're looking at from a bigger perspective. I think blockchain is just the first step that we take to enter this distributed world. So it's a first step, and there might be more advanced technology, distributed technology, coming after blockchain. So, and there are some experts actually predicting that probably in 10 years, blockchain will be outdated. There will be some more advanced technology, distributed technology that probably could actually resolve the issue that you just mentioned. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Plug in or join the Teams meeting. Yes, it's ready. Thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Stéphane Morshermat. I'm the Principal Program Manager for The Garage here in Vancouver. So essentially, I'm going to give you a very quick overview of what The Garage is about here in Vancouver, as well as briefly lean into a collaboration that we had with UBC a couple of years ago. And I think that will be my key. Patrick, you'll be talking about the EML. Is that okay? Perfect. Okay, so the Garage at Microsoft is a program that drives the culture of experimentation. This is a program that is available for all at Microsoft, whether you're a junior or senior employee. You're all invited to participate into one of our many programs that we host. So what we strive to do is provide an environment in which people can experiment with no fear of failure. So what we believe is that there is strong value in small-scale innovation. So one of the biggest thing that we do, our main responsibility beyond our Garage Global sites, is the main global hackathon that we host every single year. Last year in July, we had 28,000 full-time employees participate all around the world. I think we had about 70 different countries participate. So out of those projects come a lot of ideas, and we encourage people to kind of be engaged, meet new people, make new collaboration, get re-energized. And this is one thing that we do that we're starting to lean on more, is to invite external collaboration during our hackathons. So ultimately, in 2014, when Satya Nadella took over for Microsoft, his first employee talk was actually in the garage, kind of signaling a reboot of culture engagement. So our role is to support the Microsoft culture in all its 5 pillars. There are its growth mindset. If you haven't heard of this book, hit refresh. It talks a lot about the growth mindset. Our customer obsession, making sure that we engage with the people that use our product and solving real people for real where they are. Building a diverse and inclusive culture. So that's a really strong tenet. Working as one Microsoft. So what is very unique and awesome about the site here in Vancouver is that although we might be, I think we're approaching 1,000 people, but we have representation from 60 to 70 different teams, having single employees that work remotely with the Redmond team. So where perhaps in Redmond you would have to travel from building 27 to building 14 to Studio F, those people can be in the building. So that is a unique cultural aspect that we have here in Vancouver, and it's our responsibility to foster it. And most importantly, supporting the giving back culture. We hosted a Maker Faire event in December, where our employees kind of ultimately contributed $5,000 kind of building objects and gadgets that was donated for non-for-profit. So when we think of that cultural shift, it starts with the employees. So getting them to think differently, and a lot of that through hacking and making and doing concrete things. So here we are in the in what we call an MPR, multiple purpose room, but people ask us all the time, can't we, oh well, we'll see how much the animation goes ahead of me. But essentially people ask us all the time, hey, can we just not host this in the garage? And we have one key requirement for us to host events in the garage is that it has to be a hands-on activity. You have to do something with your hands. You have to build something so that it's not your typical lecture type meeting. So here are all our global sites. So we're a very, very small team. In terms of full-time employees, we're about probably just shy of 20 full-time employees. There's 2 of us that are full-time here in Vancouver. We are supported by another 2 contractors, and as of earlier this week, 24 interns that are undergrads that are going to be hacking and building new prototypes for us over the next 15 weeks now. So offices across the world with, in theory, 3 more opening up next year. Well, actually this year, 2020. So we'll have, over the course of the year, there'll be at least 3 separate announcements over 3 new garage sites worldwide that Microsoft is opening. So these are the 5 programs, and I'll quickly lean into the internship program. So hacking is the single biggest thing that we do at Microsoft. The Garage global sites, this is one of them. You saw where all of our other global sites were. So currently, let's go back to the previous slide. So we have Beijing in China, we have Hyderabad in India, we have Herzliya in Israel, we have the NERD in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is across the, Boston is across the river. We have our Silicon Valley office that's it's being entirely rebuilt at the moment. And we have our Redmond HQ. So Global Site Internship Program, which I'll dive into a little bit later, our experimental outlet, and we have a storytelling team to make sure that all the good, fantastic work that we're doing at Microsoft is being represented. So hacking at Microsoft, every single year, out of our global hackathon, there's a team that emerges as the global winner. And this is a team with which we work on very closely for at least a 6-month period. And a number of times this yields new products. So if you've ever used the immersive reader, either in OneNote, this was a winning team from Vancouver I believe it was the 2015 hackathon that we got the immersive reader, and it is now a service, a cloud-based service that anybody can use in Azure, and it's now being run out of our Redmond team. And this was the Watch 4. I think so a lot of their technology for this particular team is now available on Xbox. Talked about. So quickly on the Garage Global sites, for us to recognize a Garage Global site, we have a makerspace at the entrance. Here in Vancouver, we have a VR room that's just next, or a mixed reality room, actually, and we have an internship program. So in terms of the internship, this was our biggest collaboration. With UBC, we worked on 2 projects. With UBC, we worked on a projects around stream annotation. And the big one, the important one with Dr. Krabs was the holographic brain project, where we work with a team here at Microsoft. We had 6 interns, and we created a HoloLens program that enabled people to visualize the human brain based on data that UBC provided us with. So over a course of 4 months, the interns built a prototype, and for the past now 3 years since we've worked on that, Dr. Krabs and her PhD students have kept developing the software. So it became a living, breathing project for UBC. I believe it had also was a Keystone project at some time. Still is. Great. So what we do here in terms of, so collaboration is really important. So if you're like, hey, we'd love to leverage a group of really smart interns, that's awesome, but there has to be something, there has to be an alignment with Microsoft. So at the time, it just so happened there was really good alignment for the HoloLens technology that we were working on. And those things change over time. So Colin is a great point of contact. So should you have like an idea of like, hey, I think this could really be of benefit to Microsoft, leveraging Microsoft technology, as well as being a good learning opportunity for interns. So that's something we should really talk about. We should talk about. The experimental outlet. So we are able today to talk about the project that we work with Dr. Krebs, but not all the projects are for educational institutions. We've worked with Crown Corporation, with TransLink. We've worked with other nonprofit like BC Cancer. But a number of our projects may not see the light of day, and that's okay. And the ones that do see the light of day, they go through what we call our experimental outlet. So we have a page on garage.microsoft.com where you can see all the projects, either from interns or full-time employees, that are trying to solve a particular problem. Storytelling is something that is really important for us. We put the people that build the project at the forefront of the stories. This is really important in changing the culture of Microsoft, of empowering employees, of making sure that we can recognize the great ideas that they have. So that was me walking through what is typically a 40-minute deck in 13 minutes. Because I know that Patrick also has a lot of things that he wants to share with you. And if you have questions about any of those things, please ask away. There's so many things that we do, it's even really hard to get condensed in 13 minutes. Okay, any questions about anything? Okay, perfect. Patrick.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Visitor, and this is Visitor. And we're here representing the Emerging Media Lab at the University of British Columbia, along with many colleagues here and students and coworkers. Can you all raise your hand, those associated with EML in the room? Yeah, yay. So I'm here presenting with Saeed, who's the director of EML. And how would you like a signal? Do you want like a hollow signal? Just like something not rude or something. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Emerging Media Lab and probably try to race through and do that in about 11 minutes. So if you want to set your timers and see if we adhere to that, and if we don't, then you can cut us off, and then we'll just go right into Q&A. So Saeed asked me to speak first. These were 3 points on a slide that I saw yesterday. So I'm now going to improvise what the EML is about using those 3 points. But essentially, they do capture the spirit of the Emerging Media Lab, which is highly collaborative, and that collaboration can exist between students and faculty, between colleagues, staff, and faculty, between different departments, different disciplines, and also with external consultants and companies. Experimental in many ways, not just in product development or prototype development, but also we critically examine pipeline and the processes. So we iteratively try to improve upon those processes, and we get feedback from faculty and also from students in order to improve that. By multidisciplinary, I also mean interdisciplinary, because it covers the gamut of both. There are a lot of projects that can integrate disciplines in different types of ways. And now Saeed.
This is fine. So you can go to the next one. So yeah, we planned it so each one talks about one slide. So there's so much I can talk about, but there's so much time for us. So I'm going to focus only on the box that is yellow. That's where EML has been focusing since it starts almost 3 years ago. So the idea is that we want to bring in new technologies. We don't necessarily want to encourage people to use technology for the sake of it. We focus on use case. Patrick will talk about that later. But then when we have a good use case, we assign our resources. There are advisors that are working with us from industry, but the main engine behind our projects are students. Students work with our professors in a flat organizations. Professors come in as subject matter experts, except for Patrick. And well, it's true because his background is actually emerging media. So, but then the students really are the ones that are coming up with solutions, and professors usually focus on their subject matter expertise. Starting from this year, we are also taking some of our projects, selective projects, to MVP level, which is the next phase of acceleration. We can talk about it later, but this is it.
Oh, I like this. Yeah, let's switch sides every time. Here's another slide I just saw yesterday. This is awesome. Why don't you read the slide and then we can, any questions? But really, we are driven by problems to solve. This forms the heart of the EML, and we are interested not just in saying what is the problem to solve, but we also try to look for solutions that might not even be identified from problems. So in other words, say if faculty approaches us from music and wants to improve the conducting skills of their students, we'll talk about that and to see how could we propose solutions to that type of problem that comes up. So anything you wanted to add about this?
No, so the idea is that we focus on problem, not technology. We want to find the best way to solve the problem first, then find the technology that matches that. We can go to the next one. I'm talking about this because Patrick is one of the people up on the screen. So the reason I want to show this is because I want to show how diverse our, the group of faculty members who are working with us are. They're from different disciplines, and this is only the group of faculty that are working with us as faculties in residence. We also work with faculties that are working with us on a project basis. So there's a large number of faculty from different disciplines, and everyone brings something together. I mean, Patrick is one of them, and whenever we get all together in the same room, that meeting is the highlight of my year. So we meet twice a year, and that's the most amazing part of the conversation.
Cool, and not to put anyone on the spot, but Matt, any experiences of the EML that you'd like to talk about with everyone?
I think it's a wonderful place to share ideas and develop new directions, and I've been heavily involved in the last year and a half. Drop by and visit us. Great place.
Thanks, visitor. So our engine are our students, and their levels of commitment are varied. They are enrolled in numerous courses, but always seem to find the time miraculously to still work on projects that are of great interest to them and aligned with their interests, as well as supporting different innovative projects. So here are a bunch. Can those in the room raise their hands, including Atif? And yeah, and if you want to talk with them afterwards on the types of projects they're engaged in moving forward, and their own perspective of what it's like, that will be more honest. Cool.
So about students, there's also a group of students that are given access to our facility to work on their own projects. We call that EMLX. We can talk about it more, but that's where they have, and those are usually not our active students. Those are students that are potentially interested in working with Emerging Media Lab. They start at EMLX and then they become a project member later. Obviously, we have external collaboration. The Emerging Media BC Committee of Practice started from UBC in the first couple of years, and now it's become a kind of province-wide initiative. This is one of the meetings that basically we are trying to bring universities, industry, and community together. We've been working with Microsoft, Fingerfood Studios, other companies that are in town, and we are really blessed to have all of them in the same city together. And we also try to work with startups. I don't know if Peter is here, but one of the startups that is probably the oldest startups in Vancouver that's been working with us is Metanaut VR, and Peter Cow is their CEO.
An opportunity to give our students and ourselves to ensure that we have public interactions with the prototypes that are created come through our showcases. So we try to organize as many as we are able to manage in a year, and those are not just at UBC but outside. I think Microsoft has hosted here for us as well. Some of yeah.
I don't have to say anything about this. This is we actually. It was actually an honor to receive this award last year, 2 years now, 2018, and this was one of those pleasant surprises. We were nominated with actually someone else, and then we were told that we are in a shortlist, and we finally got the prize.
So now I'll ask if you can just flip through kind of at this tempo, and I'm going to just try to say that there's a diversity of projects that come from different disciplines and different principal investigators across the UBC landscape, and those cover a wide diversity of different types of projects and different solutions that researchers are looking for. This can extend and relate to education predominantly, as that is the focus of the Emerging Media Lab. We will stop on this last one and say that this is an ongoing project with Dr. Jonathan Gerard from UBC School of Music. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the challenges is how to support students in their aspirations to become conductors. The latest news on this is another internal collaboration with UBC with electrical computing and engineering. Did I say it right? Yeah, okay, good. And in the construction of a haptic device to facilitate that. So they're actually going to build a baton, conducting baton, that will probably, in its first prototype, I'm imagining will weigh about 25 kilos, but I'm hoping that they'll get it like lighter to be used. So yeah. I think we can end there, and Saeed would like to take all of your questions.
Any questions? This is a friendly crowd.
Next question.
Hi. Become friends with one of our students or faculty or staff, because we need to have at least one person from UBC. So they can bring experts from outside UBC. Okay. Yeah, you can become friends with Catherine, and then Catherine can bring you. Catherine is our supervisor at EML. I'm going to pass the mic so you can.
Hi. Let's be friends.
Strong.
Thanks, Saeed. It's cool.
Any other questions? Yeah, Patrick asked a couple of people not to raise their hands and ask questions before we came up here, so they're not supposed to ask questions. All right, thank you. Thanks so much. Oh, thanks to Microsoft for hosting this session. We're trying to. We're actually trying to go to different locations and rotate, and it will be industry, universities, private sectors, and I'm not going to do that. Our next potential host is sitting in the crowd, so I'm going to let him talk whenever he wants.
And so with that, I will thank you all very much for coming over here to Microsoft. If you have any questions about anything you've heard today, Stefan's hiding out in the back again, so can talk to a number of the garage efforts. I am more than happy to talk about how we are interacting with UBC as well as other universities in Canada and outside, and find out from you if there's anything else that we can do, anything we can work through together. With that, thank you all so very much. Have a great weekend, folks.